Guys, it's Will coming at you. Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. We're coming into 2024. As you can kind of see with this piece of paper here, you can kind of guess what we're doing. Anyways, let me know down below what you guys got for Christmas, what you done, how it was. I know personally I didn't have a really good one, but you know, it was better than most. Yeah, long enough talking. Soviet starter box. So here it is. Sorry for the glare again, it's just the lighting in my room. It's the best I can get. So we have the top here. Again, I unwrapped it beforehand. Here we have the side. It talks about Barbarossa and stuff that this is for. You get a unique little medic there. Again, what you need, and paint guides for Vallejo and their one rapid deployment for Russians. And then of course we have sides. Again, just like the other newer boxes, instead of giving you just a little sheet, they actually show you how to build them. So then of course your multi-language. And on this one, the back is just pure white. I might actually save this backing, cut it out so I can lay it out when I do videos and stuff. But let's get right into opening this. So easy, flip this open. Ooh. Ignore me if I go quiet for a second. I'll be trying to cut it. There's weird noises going off in my headset. So yeah. Anyways, so first off here we have is the tank. This is the T-34 early version. Then we have our transfer sheets and data cards for the T-34. Then we have our, it looks like, metal MMG team by Cosma. That's a very fitting name. We have our fluffs. And we have our 45 anti-tank gun. You can always use more anti-tank guns with the Russians. And we get 5 weapon sprues. We have our HQ squad. So we have our medic lady, our lieutenant, and his further man, or a commissar, however you want to do it. Again, these plastics, you can make all those. You can make commissar squads. You get 8 sprues with 8 dudes on them each. And of course you get some of these. Instruction manuals and some circle bases. So looking at the actual what you get in this box, because there is different starter boxes, especially with how they're doing this new system, and there's different Russian ones. So depending on like what your need is and your era, I can kind of explain quickly what you will want before we get into the actual in-depth sprue looking of the tank and the infantry. But here you go. As you can kind of see, hopefully it is cleared. It is following. You get 64 plastic infantry, 1 T-34-76. You get officer, commissar, and a medic. Okay, so it is supposed to be a commissar in there, but you can run them as the further man if you want to. A machine gun, anti-tank gun, and all the bases. Anyways, so we're back here. This is part 2 where we take a look at all the actual miniatures. So pulling off here out of the bag, we have the MMG, or you can use as an HMG. Guy sitting down holding the actual gun. There you go. We have laying down with the ammo. We have the actual Maxim machine gun itself with gun shield. Then we have the third part member of it. As I've learned from the last video, sometimes Warlord will send you more models than the minimum of a squad. I don't know if it's just because you get more wounds if you have more bodies on it if you use it from official, or they just give you, you know, extra options. But if you're brand new to the game, always go with the models that came with it, build it with those. It's safe to assume. Worst case, it just looks cool that you have more dudes. If you do know your army and you're buying a box after you've read the rules, you can use those extra models to make, you know, sergeants or observers and stuff, like I like to do. And last but not least, it's your army. Build them as you want. Just, you know, make your opponent aware if you're playing that, hey, this squad has only 3 dudes in it, or, you know, actually it's supposed to have 2, but I made it with 3. I'll use a dice to count it, you know. Don't use it to cheat, but, you know. Also, don't take shit from people and don't be mean about it. Here we go, we have a dude. This is your, I think it's supposed to be your commissar. You have your lieutenant. He's got a bit of flash, kind of like your enemy at the gates sort of character. And the one that I got this for, your medic. Lastly here, we have, of the metal at least, and I'm going to be building these tonight anyways. Samoa, I don't know. We have our anti-tank gun. So this is the spring / heading into fall uniforms, as is Barbarossa was. Loader with a SMG, I think, on there. No, a rifle, a carbine. The gun shield. If you've played Company of Heroes 2, you've seen this gun. Pretty straight for being a loose metal barrel. The bits to elevate. Your arms and tires, you've seen these on everything. And it looks like the spotter, which you could probably use as in a forward observer, but I have one already. I have a couple, so I'm gonna put them onto the base. It comes with just circle bases, so there is no oval. So let's get into the vehicle here. So this should come with 3 sprues. As you can see here, we have this one, which has lights, horns, antenna, exhausts, parts of the drive cover, I'm guessing. We have, we'll zoom out here a bit. We have the hull. And we have 3 different versions of turret. So going throughout the years, I think starting first and then ending with this. Only 1 bottom, but you can pressure fit them. And only 1 barrel, of course, so you'll have extra bits left over. Again, casting your own stuff, you can bits to have multiple turrets. I gotta take a look at the other one I have of this, and I'll build the version I don't have. Of course, your tracks, looking great. We have the bottom of the hull, and the road wheel tire stuff, and some extra bits here. And last but not least, let's take a look at the infantry sprues. So now, there is about 8 of these in here. They're all the same. So we only need to look at one really. So starting as we normally do, if I can find them. So starting at the bottom here, we have the heads. Looking good. They're all helmeted. Again, this is spring. Then you have your commissar helmet and your lieutenants and stuff. Again, these are older sprues, so all the hands are here basically open, so a lot of customization plus some extra bases. You have some more arms. Then we have our torsos. Some of them have straps on the back here for bags. Other ones have the bags pre-molded on. And so on and so forth. So some of them you can actually build the backpacks on like these. Other ones are meant to be barebacked for your commissars and stuff. Like this one can have a backpack on it. This one could probably have a bag on it. And of course your, talk about bags, your backpacks, your pish, papashashaw, whatever word, ammo bags and stuff, shovels, and your laying down guy. So out of this, you can build a lot of different infantry options. So out of this whole set, you can build a lot of different units in infantry. So stay tuned. At the end of this video, I'll have everything built, and I will go over, just like in the French box, I'm going to go over with Army Builder and show you 2 lists. Ones for if you're starting out, how I would build them, more historical / theater selector than, you know, generic reinforced platoon. And then I'll have one for those who already maybe have a box of infantry and bought an HQ unit, how to build it to get the max value out of this. So stay tuned. I will see you guys in that part at the end of the video here. Bye. See you there. Hey guys, it's Will back here. We've just finally finished the Russians. Sorry it took so long to get this video out. There's a lot of single Russians to build in here and my arm hurts. So yeah, also trying to understand their units compared to other armies is wonky. So there's that. But yeah, so here we go. We have the models all in front of us, built in many different ways. As you can see, there is a lot of infantry from this box. As a heads up, these models are built in mind with one, building this as a platoon so I can have like multiple, and three, some parts of this army, not a lot, like maybe 5 models in total, have been made with one extra bit from somewhere else or with customizing using spare resin that I have. So that is as a warning with that in mind, the multiple models and stuff being different. This is just to let you know that I did that. If you're building this yourself straight from the box, you can make it basically how I have made it here. You just don't use those extra bits. Let's get into looking a more in-depth version of this this army box then, since we're here. Alright, so here we are. We're going to look at some models first off close hand, starting with command squads, as these are your primary units in the game, or at least one that you have to run with. So here we go. Here's your lieutenant, fully primed, or not primed, but like, you know, glued on. Not much to see here. He's metal. You see him at the beginning of the video. Same with his spotter. So we're gonna skip basically those models that you've seen already at the beginning, though we do have this guy here, which is a second in command that I made for the commissar. So hence the hat. Of course, your medic and her follower here, which I used a chunk of resin from a print support and filed it down safely using a mask and ventilated area, then vacuumed up the dust. And once it's painted, it'll look like a roll of bandages. So that's fine. So let's look at the actual weapon crews themselves. Anti-tank gun here with its crew. You guys can kind of see the oh, just drop it. Kind of see the inside there. This is very easy to put together. The sights in gears and stuff there to turn, you know, elevate and rotate the gun. Just snap onto. There's a little nub in there that it lines up with. Though there is no, at least in the one I got, there wasn't a sight for aiming that goes through this window here. So I don't know if that's just because I broke it off, or if there wasn't one, or if it actually isn't supposed to come with one. But that's something to keep in mind. And it does come with just circle bases. There's no oval base for this. Though it's small enough, I could have actually pulled it back a little bit further and it would have been fine. And next off, we have in the metal teams is the MMG here. If you want a HMG, just like how the Americans can get them, the Rubicon makes a pewter weapons team for it for actually half the price of a Warlord Games MMG, but it does come with other weapon teams usually when you buy these. So HMG though from the Americans I think is about a little bit more than the Rubicon one, but they are a good, I'll have to see. Well, I'll review them when I get them, just like quick one, just to see the difference between the two, like in quality. Warlord stuff's pretty thick and pretty nicely detailed, so it is worth getting if you can't get Rubicon. And it's also such a niche model. You only have 1 or 2 of them. Getting into it, let's look at the big model of this set. I got it so big I gotta zoom out. We have the T-3474. Not much I can say about this. I don't quite know the difference of the turrets and stuff. This might be same sort of chassis, whatever, same gun but different turret. With the boxes. Boxes were kind of funky to figure out how they go onto this model. So kind of try to show the best angles as I can for you guys so you can see it once you build it yourself, how these are supposed to go on. So forgive me if I'm just kind of rotating this. But yeah. Super simple to go together. I didn't even use instructions. I built this just, you know, using no instructions, and it was very easy to put together. So going into our built from plastic teams, there's a couple. I built this based off of the, it's either the Stalingrad Battle Theater or the Volga. It's basically a theater selector I based how I built these off of. So when we go in the second part of this video where we look over how to build these models using lists for either longtime players or beginners, that's the lists are going to be based off of a theater selector. I find the Russian stuff and to be very, very fun to play as narrative armies, though they are really good at playing competitively. They're, if you don't want to play Americans and you don't want to play Germans, but you want to, and you're a competitive player coming from 40k, I would say definitely go Soviet. Soviet, Americans, and Japanese are very much your feels like I'm playing 40k armies, with Germans being your more what Space Marines used to kind of be like, your, or at least the idea behind them, where they're a all-around army, but they're basically meant to be that way so that way they can fit in all theaters, because, you know, they were in all theaters. They were the ones basically that caused everything except for the Pacific. Point is, if you're looking for a great army that's competitive and you're maybe coming from 40k, or you've heard of 40k but your friends are playing this instead, go Russians or go Americans. You're with that spiel out of the way, I've talked long enough. Again, these are made, the rest of this is all now made in the box. So let's take a look here. Here we go. We have a dude laying down. Here's our spotter for our anti-tank rifle team. So how the Russians work for their special weapons for that is, when you take one anti-weapons team in a Soviet platoon, you can take up to 3 per slot. Now in the theater selector I made of these, they had, I don't know if it was accounted for already in the list builder or not, but it had 3 selected, so I just built 3. You have your spotter for that. Then you actually have your actual anti-tank gun here. Their weapon sprue does come with the ability to make these guys out of plastic, so you don't have to worry about buying them in metal. So there's that. So way easier to fix if they break. Really nice models. And yeah. So there's 2 of these weapon teams in this squad that I made. Then, oh, there he is. I made, as special to this theater selector, the anti-tank team, which has Panzerfausts. Here he is in all his glory. Sorry if the lighting's not great for his face. That's just where I am right now, and it being winter, it's kind of hard to get any sort of natural light in here. There's crouching dude, anti-tank grenade, I believe. He has that extra Panzerfaust for his friend. Next off here, we're going to take a look at some of the infantry, just basic infantry. So there's a lot of these, so we're not going to go through all of them, just the ones I've built. I'll show you some of the differences and things and how I kind of built them. A lot of this is going to be in the chat with the army lists, how I describe things. So just because a lot of it is built the exact same, It's just a lot of repetition with this one. So looking at it, please forgive the sniffling. Again, with it being so cold, can't really open the windows, and the dust and glue is making me sneeze. So here we go. You have your basic just sort of rifleman crouched here. He has his little bag on his back. Rifle, they have rifles with and without bayonets, or basically folded bayonets. Then I have my LMG squad NCO. He has his PPSH with stick, hat, I forgot what they're actually called. I gave a lot of my like sergeants or special weapon dudes, at least one other dude in the squad, those hats because I'm building these for my winter Russians. So to represent the coming of the winter, they have those hats. And then looking on a different squad, we have how I've done my guard infantry. So this theater selector had guard, red guard as their sort of infantry selector. So here he is. He has the Dragunov or whatever it's called, the SVT semi-auto. And we have another one in his squad with the LMG. And then lastly, a NCO. Really nice plastics, especially for their age. I think these are some of the best aged models in their range, next to the British. The American stuff's pretty decent, but they have updated them. Like, you can tell the difference between their regular infantry and their paratroopers. But even then, like, the Russian models infantry are very nice, and I think were actually my favorite to build, next to the Italians and French, but those are new. But for old past models, these are my favorite that I've built so far, even though I've built a bunch of them. But it's a great design that way, because if you're gonna build a bunch of them, you might as well make it nice and easy. And as we can see here, he has a Panzerfaust on his back. That's because in this theater selector, the same one we'll show on the video here, you can actually take, for your guard infantry, they can have up to 1 stolen Panzerfaust per unit. So another reason why I'd say the Soviets are great for a beginner army is because you do have access to this, whereas like the Germans kind of have it as their, like, as a hidden national rule, just like how the Americans have the 3 Browning MMGs per spot as their hidden national rule. You can also get Panzerfausts too. So if you have that one guy in the club who plays Germans and he just kits them with STGs and freaking Panzerfausts, kind of no matter what sort of era you play in, you can play that back using your Russians. So you can kind of stick it to them. Lastly, for units, this one I want to kind of show off, and this might be a sort of like inspiration for your own version of this. The Russians do get a free unit of inexperienced rifle, fully upgraded stuff, for free per platoon. So how I differentiate these guys from my main armies is I kind of take a lesson from the Enemies at the Gate movie, or Call of Duty if you played the older games, where half or more of my 12 dudes in this free and experienced squad are actually unarmed. So as you can see, this NCO dude here has his little hat, but he has a bottle, which you get Molotovs in here. All I did was cut off the, and I can probably clean this up a little better now since he's fully dried, but cut the flame off the bottle, which was super easy to do. And I'm going to paint it up just like it's a normal, like, you know, wine bottle that he has. And he's been, you know, drinking it before he rushes into combat. He has his little handgun there. You have another dude here, which I'm going to be painting up as if, you know, he's just been shot, and he's kind of looking at like a cut or something on him. So he's looking at his hand like, oh, I've been hurt. He has a shovel to be running at somebody, and you can bonk them. They do come with shovels out of their shovel holders, so you can use that to kind of have as melee weapons. And then we have this guy here. Again, these are all parts from this box that you can use. There's a lot of just open-ended arms, and this is why I like when they make their models with more arms. You know, with even if they have some arms that are molded with weapons, I like having a majority of the arms be without weapons, so you can do stuff like this, where, you know, he has the dinner plate for the LMG that he's picked up, maybe running it to somebody, but again, he is also unarmed. And on the opposite side, you have your normal dudes here. Again, keeping this padded fleece uniform. I kept them mostly for my free, so they all have shovels. And it's like he just picked up a rifle from the ground and is still just running. Or for the crouching guy, I have him on the ground. Like he found a rifle on the ground and he's picking it up, keeping an eye. Maybe somebody's got a gun pointed at him, or the commissar's yelling at him to get up, or something happened in front of him and he's shocked, but he's crouched down, picking that rifle up. That's this section of it. Here's the army fully laid out. Now we're going to get into the part here where I go over the list building and tips and advice. But if that's not your part of the videos, you just wanted to see how the box looks, see the models in depth and in unboxed and stuff, and how I built them, thank you so much for watching. I don't feel bad if you just want to skip and end it here. But if you're a new player and you want some recommendations how to build these lists to get either max value of play or max value for dollar, please stay tuned for the next section here, which will be happening right now. But if not, we'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, it's Will here, coming at you at the second half of this video, where I am currently looking at the list building and what you get in the box side of things. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. If not, and you just want some list ideas, also thank you for checking by. But we're going to get into that right here. So as you can see on the screen, starting off here, this is the box that we've bought on the official website of Warlord in US. If you shop outside of the UK, this is the default basically that it sets you to. So I just decided to have it at that so more people can see it. But anyways, here, so this is the version I bought myself. This is the newest one that just came out. The one you're basically going to be looking at for starting out. Now the difference between the two is, as you can see here, you have of course your gun and your 74, which as unlike this one, which is your what was the original smaller box of the two, has the 84 or whatever, the newer version. So this is like the one I'd recommend out of the two. Is most likely, if you can get them, depending on how they're priced at your local game store, I would go for this one. Though you do get a little less, actually you get a little more plastic infantry. Let me just double check to make sure. You get about the same amount of plastic sprues. The only reason why I choose this one over the to start with is because you're getting that mortar. Now, a lot of people say that you need a mortar to play, as you can see here, this mortar right here. And yes and no. I would say, depending on what you want, it's basically the same box. It's just your weapon teams are going to be slightly different, and your tank is going to be different. Now, if you want a starter box for Soviets and you don't really care what you're getting in it, this will be the starter box you want to get. Now, if you want best value, and especially if you're just straight up starting and you don't want to worry about templates, I would highly suggest this version of the Russian box. Just because, again, you basically are getting the exact same stuff, though in this one, you're getting that anti-tank gun and an MMG squad. So they're replacing the mortar team with these two instead. Now this one is a little bit more, just because you are getting those two weapon teams, and the older T-34, though you do get a good chunk of infantry. So instead of basically having your two vehicles and stuff like you get in a normal medium. This is like their medium box set. This is the best one for your bang for your buck. Now, the other one, again, like I said, is also a very good starter box, especially if you want to try the Soviets and maybe you've played another faction before. I would definitely go with the other one just because that mortar and that T-34, you get that nice medium or super heavy, I can't quite remember which one it is, anti-tank gun on it. And again, you get the exact same infantry, so you're not losing anything. It's just cheaper, so for your bang for your buck, that is the better one. Whereas in this one, if you're willing to spend a little bit more, you get a good chunk of stuff, and you can pick up that mortar later on and split the infantry that you have in here into 2 platoons instead of one large one. Last but not least in this whole box sets, because we do want to acknowledge all of them so you guys can see your choices. There's this one. This would be considered their large box set. So this is like their 2 vehicle. How I like to describe them is there's your infantry only, your 1 vehicle, and your 2 vehicle boxes. So your 1 vehicle box would be the one that we're reviewing in this video, where it comes with the T-34 74 or whatever, the early version with the 2 weapon teams. And then their large box would be this winter one here, which instead of coming with 2 boxes or 2 vehicles, it actually comes with almost double the amount of plastic infantry because they're a horde infantry. And again, they're winter, so a lot of the winter stuff is actually going to be just metal sprues and box and weapon teams that you buy. All the winter stuff is basically in one box, so you don't have to worry about buying stuff out of the box and separate. You just buy this one box and you have your Stalingrad, your Barbarossa and stuff like that, your classic winter Russians box. And as you can see here, it comes with a KV1 or KV2. It comes with both. The nice thing about Warlord game boxes is they don't cheese you or rip you off or give you off numbers like Games Workshop does. You actually get really good value versus a Games Workshop starter box. So with that, we have looked into the starter boxes. Let us now get into anyways, let's get into it. We have 2 lists here that we are working on. As we can see, our first one here, this is the army list that I built the box out of that you saw earlier in the video. This is the theater selector, not one step back. This is basically the era of time of Russia that I really like, is that Volga battle where the order from Stalin, the 3 something, whatever, 641, I can't quite remember, where Russia was no longer allowed to retreat. They had to push enemies at the gates to sort of style. Let's get right into this here. Enough talking. This part's going to be the longest part of the video. So again, if you just wanted to see the differences, or maybe this might be a little bit too long for you, depending on how long the video bar is. See, it's even too long for my brain. But it's not going to harm me if you decide to leave. I'm not making any money on this channel. I'm just doing this for funsies, you know, giving my ideas out there. It seems like a lot of you liked this, so I'm gonna keep trying my best to kind of guide you guys out there. Again, if you're buying just an infantry box and a tank on its own, just to try out the game, brand new into it, you don't want to dive too much, haven't even really played a war game before, and you haven't bought a 2-player starter box because there's not a Russian one, I highly recommend checking out Hollywood Historian. I believe that's his YouTube name. I'll have his link down below. But he takes you through each army's infantry box, you know, their 30 plastic kit boxes, and tells you how to make an army out of that so you can try the army out. And he's really good, and he comes from a perspective of bang from your buck, just like I'm trying to do it. And I'll keep saying that word like some college dorm boy trying to, you know, get lucky. But so starting with our officer. Now again, we're going to try to keep this under about, we're going to set this one and then we'll set for the other one. But with what I've built, I was able to do about 1,200 points. All their boxes kind of aim for that. So the game never wants to go below 1,000 or even 1,200 points. You can do about 500 or 700, I can't quite remember. But that's when you're playing more like basically your kill team. You're playing Crossfire, which I believe it's called, which is their free online rules for playing skirmish games, where instead of using platoons of dudes. You're playing a squad of guys, and they have abilities and stuff. It's actually quite fun. I'd highly recommend checking it out. It's if you have just a small space and you want to play something quickly between rounds, it's pretty good. Or the other one that I'm a huge fan of is Recon Rumble, which is a 750 point game where you're playing with nothing bigger than, I think, a armor value of 7 or 8. Basically armored transports and like tetrarchs, like really light tanks. Highly recommend checking that out. I'll have links for that down below too if I remember. But anyways, let's get into it here. So starting with our guides, let's go our senior, as you can see, models here. So starting here, I always take my smaller teams, especially like my leaders, especially if you play Germans, they're a big one, as veterans, just because it makes them survive a little bit longer. And I personally always have issues where my commanders usually always get caught out in the open somehow, or they just end up getting hit by, pre-bombardment and they end up dying and stuff. It's not a fun time. So I've just instinctually learned to run them as veterans, which can be a good thing. There's thematic. Though some theater selectors may make it so you can't take veterans and stuff, and you just take your highest rank there. But in this one we can. So we're going to take a veteran, and using that metal model as you saw, we're going to make him our secondary man, his further man, whatever they're called. Basically his second officer, his secretary, whatever have you. And we're just going to take one of those, and we're going to save him back. Now, we got to take 2 squads, as is tradition. And this is where I'm talking about how it's weird how the Russians do their squads. Unlike other armies where you have, rifle squad, where you can take an LMG and stuff, or, assault squads, and they have different things. Basically, you start with your basic, like, your regular, your rifleman, and then it has, like, veteran, inexperienced, whatever. The Russians is definitely a older codex or army book, and it's split everything up, and it's just weird how everything is done. And a lot of their army books and stuff is based off of movies, historical pieces, and history itself. So a lot of this army composition, how they're squatted up, is based on all that stuff, and it's just weird to me. Starting here, what you can make out of this, what I'd recommend is making 2 guard squads. Now guard squads here are going to be basically your assault units. These are going to be your guys who are going to be assaulty, push forwards, stuff like that. Kind of be your guys with that poke the enemy sort of idea. Because in this list, they can take a bunch of submachine guns. Basically, that's how you get your SMG squads. But why you take them instead of SMG squads is because they can have a Panzerfaust. Now, depending on where you play, I would swap these out for SMG squads, or if you can get a box of them, or if you know somebody who has a spare flamethrower, or you can make your own flamethrower. Because the nice thing about the Russian flamethrower was they disguised it to look like one of their rifles, so that way the guy who had the flamethrower was less likely to get targeted out. So if you get like a little tiny Lego tire or something, or like 3D print like the British looking sort of flamethrower, and you just put a little like paper clip to the butt of one of your rifles, you can make a flamethrower, which then let you make an engineer squad, which then I'd replace with that instead. But if you have no skill whatsoever, you just want to play, take this box, because a lot of people, especially the guys I've played around here, if they play Germans, they want to play competitive. So they're taking Panzerfaust, they're taking every little cheesy thing, they're angle shooting and stuff. So this is why I recommend these guys in this list. Again, if you're playing with friends, for both sides, don't spam Panzerfaust and stuff, and just play with bare minimum. take the SMG squad. But yeah, I'm rambling. Anyways, so you take this squad and you can either take a good chunk of them as SMGs. You don't want to go more than 5. So you want to go 5 SMGs. So basically you have your whole squad. You basically want your whole squad to have SMGs. So if you're looking at your basic one, which is 5 dudes, all of them will have SMGs. Now, take the Panzerfaust. There you go. There you go. That's your SMG squads. And how you tell the difference between these two versus your normal rifleman is how I do it is I took all the ones that looked like actual uniforms and not just the padded uniform, like the padded outfit. I took those, and the guard actually had special on their shoulder pads and stuff. They actually had red markings or whatever. So that's how you tell the difference between the two. You can, depending on how many points you need to fill out, take these in 10-man squads. But I would take these personally no bigger than 6 men. And, you know, just make sure that we'll take them as 6. But remember, we only have 60 whatever to deal with. So we're going to take 5 for now, just to see how much we have left. Now, you can take anti-tank grenades, but we're going to save those for your lower income guys, your lower cost units. We're going to keep this to the Panzerfausts. We don't want them charging vehicles, we just want them to people off the objective. Again, we're just going to copy this. Now don't worry about weapon options and running out of those in this list, in these boxes, because you get a lot. The only ones you only get limited to one of is your LMGs, your Panzerfausts, and your snipers. But again, we're going to limit that. We're going to account for that. So we got our 2 squads. We got our HQ. Now let's do the other units that we can do and maybe even out our plastics. So we have to take our Commissar. So Commissar regular. And we're going to give him a plastic dude with that. And we're going to -1. Oop. You can basically load them out any way you want. I'd probably just give him a pistol or something. He's going to take the first wound anyways over your normal Commissar. So, take that. In this box, you can technically make 2 different versions of this tank. You can make the flamethrower version, or you can make the regular version with the MMG. Now, there's no real special difference between the two, except for the hull-mounted gun, how it looks. Because the T-34 was designed when it was first introduced, like the concept was it had to be able to house a in-tank flamethrower system. So that's the real difference between those two. Now, this is another one of those, it depends on who you're playing with situation. Now, if you're playing with people you know, and you're both starting out, I would recommend taking just the regular turret-mounted MMG. You know, this version. Now, if you're playing with somebody else, say you're playing to go play at a game store, maybe somebody who's been playing for a while, they're a little competitive, or you have your own personal experience with war games, I would then take this version instead, which has the flamethrower in it. Now, both the early version of the T-34 and the newer version of the T-34 can have this version. It's just this one, because of the theater selector, it's basing it off the old version of the T-34. That's why it still has the same stats. And again, just take this as regular. You could, if you need a little bit more points, this would be another one to take as veteran, because this is a flamethrower. It is scary, and your opponent's going to go after it first. Okay. Next off, we are going to go with our free rifle squad, because this is where it's going to eat up most of your your plastic, your models. This is where it's going to eat 12 of your models. So that's why we save this for now. This should actually be the first unit you build. So now, you're in the army as it's written. For every platoon you take, you're allowed to take a free inexperienced squad of rifles. So, and everything on it is free to take. So it's basically you're just limited to this entry level of the army book about an inexperienced rifle squad, and of course physically what you have. So because we have 50 dudes to play with, and this is an inexperienced squad, they're going to benefit from having the full squad thing, which I think buffs some morale, or it does something like that in the game. But we're not going to worry about that. Again, this is your beginner army. So we're going to take 12 dudes. So we're going to minus 12. And we're going to give them all anti-tank guns. This is where you give your anti-grenades to. And this entire squad is just rifles, even the NCO and stuff. So this is where a good chunk of your rifles are going to go. Alright. Now, we have 38 dudes left. We want to, and again, we've only been using standing or crouching guys, because this is where we're going to get your support to help deal with other vehicles and stuff, and your weapon teams. Because you don't have a mortar, I would highly recommend taking your sniper squad here. And we're just going to take a regular sniper team. We're not going to worry about all the other stuff. And we're going to build them as, again, regulars. Now, you can build a sniper from this. I'd recommend building them as 2 laying down guys. So you get 1 laying down guy per sprue. So you only have like 5 laying down guys. So you're going to use 2 of them to make your snipers. One's going to have the sniper rifle. Another one's going to have binoculars and an SMG or a rifle, however you want to physically show it. I'd probably take the carbine, so like the short rifle. And that's how you're going to do that. Your next one here is you have these anti-tank teams. So you're going to take a tank hunter anti-tank team. This is the one where you get the Panzerfaust. And you're going to give Panzerfausts to them. They come with anti-tank grenades, so they can charge them. And you're going to give him, you're only going to take this as 2. And these ones you can actually take as crouching dudes, standing dudes, or laying down dudes. However you want to do it. And I would take them as, again, now why you want to take 2 of these is because you can, for 1. And 2, this is going to get you a lot of good anti-tank stuff, or if you want to run an anti-tank team, like little squad, or you play a different theater select or whatever have you, you're going to have the options. And having a lot of anti-tank rifle guns, stuff like that, especially again in that generic reinforced platoon, 3 of these would take up 1 anti-tank slot. It's always just good to have that extra anti-tank weapon teams. And the anti-tank snipers are really good because they can be used to take out veterans or tanks. So they're dual purpose. Now we have 30 dudes left to work with that are hardcover or hard plastic. Mostly we've used up the laying down guys. So a lot of this is going to be, you might have 1 or 2 left over depending on how you built the other anti-tanks team and your snipers. You can build your snipers crouching too. I'd either build them crouching or laying down. But anyways, we have 30 dudes to play with. And this is where I would just either start filling up your squads here, or for the most part for Russians, you want to build just infantry. So we're gonna build LMG squads. So now we've saved our LMGs for this. There's no picture, but this is basically just a basic rifle squad with an LMG. And we're gonna take these dudes as inexperienced. That's how we're going to save our points, is on these guys. But again, you're Russia, you have Commissar, you don't worry. And you also have the Great Patriotic War as your special ability, which lets you reroll morale checks that would make you run off the board. It doesn't matter if you're running inexperienced. So we're going to take 10, we're going to do them in 10. So we're going to do 3 squads of these guys in 10, which is going to use up the rest of our stuff. So your NCO is going to take a submachine gun. Another thing I'd say is you could not take it, so just keep that in mind. Depending on what weapons you've used up, give these guys a submachine gun. If not, leave them with rifles or a pistol. You know, signify their difference. You can also just build them with submachine guns and just tell your opponent that they're rifles, but you don't need to. So for now, we'll just leave the option unchecked, but you can. Now, you're going to give your dude a LMG, and you can, again, take anti-tank grenades if you want to, but you don't need to. but I would for your inexperienced squads so that they can charge tanks, or at least they don't have to worry about getting tank feared off the board, which again, rules you don't have to worry about until later on. So we're going to just save that. Here's the list. So if you guys want a list for yourself to build these plastic models, how to build the models yourself, here it is down below. Anything that says equipped as they are modeled, that means basically your models that are you know, with your commander, so like with your commissar, with your lieutenant, with your medic. Those are the ones that you can build as is. The medic though can only take a handgun, but the others can be built with if you want a rifle, an SMG, pistol, so on and so forth. And yeah, so there you go. Other tips and advice I'd give for building your guards is I used the because again I'm building kind of mine for general use and just to buff up my army. I have a lot of infantry anyway, so I can swap them out. Is I used the semi-auto rifles and carbines on my guard army, or my guard units, to represent the difference between rifle units and my free and experienced. And again, with the free and experienced, I built a majority of them without guns, so they're just running towards the enemies with shovels and other bits they find on the ground. So that's other great ways to represent the difference. And last but not least, you can always just write on the bottom of the bases like I do what they are and what army they're for. So that's basically building the army as it is from the box. And basically building your platoon, also your basic just generic reinforced platoon with the box that comes with that. That's basically the same way I would build it also. I might give up more Panzerfausts, more SMGs, maybe swap the couple guard units for SMG units and stuff like that. But with what you get in the box, that's how I would build your models. That's how I would build the list for this, with what you get in it, and that is what I would add to it. So with that, guys, this is it. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end if you got this far, and I am excited to play some games of bolt action here using these models that we got. And hopefully here in the future, I got some art in the works and want to start that how to sort of battle game, like how to play and stuff in the future. So with that, guys, we will see you later on this year. Happy New Year, or whatever, late New Year, and we'll hope to see you guys more frequently in the future. Bye bye. Bye bye now. Bye bye. Click the video. Click it. Click the video. You know you want to. Click it.